Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Nick Gowing.
Like a good game, like a good television program, we're always up against time, but we know how much time we've got. We've got 45 minutes before the whistle blows on this particular game, or this particular half. So we've got a lot to get through on a critical issue about is the pursuit of money killing sport, or can money buy success and public engagement? I'll come back to that question in a moment. Bonanza sponsorship deals, rights negotiations, benefits, top of the pyramid, or what's happening to grassroots sport? Is grassroots sport suffering badly? What efforts are being made to counter corruption as well as part of this whole business of money, particularly in some countries? Are we likely to see a public backlash? Now, let me remind you, I hope that we can still work on the basis like this morning. If there are thoughts in your mind, it is a very efficient way of getting them up to the panel. If you can do it through those devices which you have, either iPad or the other devices you have. And Bob, if we could just put up the addresses, all the addresses will come up. You may have them already in your machine. It's a great way of me understanding what's on your mind as we listen to the discussion over the next 45 minutes. So what I want to do first of all is ask a simple question, whether you think that money is killing sport or money can buy success. A simple question in a moment. I've given them notice of this, but let me just ask at least three of them to explain what they do and what their companies are. I warn you, you need a headset because Wen Wang, who's chairman of Holy Land Sports Corporation from Beijing, will be speaking in Chinese. But Philip Blatter, first of all, what does your company do?
So Infant Sports.
大家好，非常荣幸来到多哈。我们是一个。
Wait, one moment. I was just asking Philip.
Sorry. Okay.
So Infant Sports and Media is a sports marketing company. We distribute media rights, we distribute sponsorship rights, and we produce events. Actually, what we try to do is to bring the great sports people we've seen today down to the end consumer, down to the fans, through TV or in a stadium. Last year, we helped to produce and to have about 18 world championships in different sports, and we delivered about 3,300 event days, which is about 9 sport events every day of the year that Infront Sports and Media is helping to deliver.
Dan, from Deloitte. We know what Deloitte is, accountants and consultants, but what do you do, which is related to sport?
So we're a specific part of Deloitte. We're a sports business practice. There's 18 people based out of Manchester in the UK, working globally with clients all around the world and working with all our colleagues in member firms around the world, delivering all the services Deloitte can deliver.
But what do you do for sport?
We advise and consult on governance, strategy, regulation and commercial matters.
Wen Wang, your company in Beijing, what does it do?
OK，我们主要是做体育的金融当然业务包含了体育的投资体育的基金管理、体育的担保，甚至说一些高端的体育方面的财富的管理，这种4方面的业务。到目前为止呢，我们是一个在全方位的一个体育的金融的服务机构我们的业务呢不仅仅在中国也在美国也有我们是一个全球应对全球的公司我们也希望呢用我们对于体育的理解和对于金融知识的这个工具的掌握去服务于体育产业。谢谢。
Thank you. We also have Billy Hunter, who is Executive Director of the National Basketball Players Association. We also have Javier Faus, who's Senior Vice President for Finance from FC Barcelona, and Hassan Al-Tawadi, who is Secretary General for the Qatar 2022 Supreme Committee. I'm going to ask you that question now, one after the other. Does it kill sport, or can money buy success? What's your view in Qatar?
Simple question, not a simple answer. In all honesty, it's a yes or no answer. If you want me to elaborate, I can elaborate.
Give me an elaboration in a moment, but you're saying it's difficult to answer, Philippe.
Yes.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Javier.
I think money can indeed buy success, unfortunately.
Billy,
I'd say no, subject to
No
further
what?
No, it's not destroying it. The pursuit of money is not destroying it, and you cannot necessarily buy success.
Dan Jones.
Pretty much agree with Billy, I think. I think money strengthens sport, it doesn't kill it. And I think you can't guarantee success just because you got money.
Wen Wang.
Sorry，我认为那个金钱还是可以带来体育的成功的。当然，商业化也不会摧毁体育。我相信，不光是现在这个体育的繁荣，包括奥运会的发展，包括之所以今天我们能在这里进行多哈的论坛，也是这个金钱的力量。谢谢。
All right, so it's on the positive side by and large, although we have a couple who are wavering at the moment. Dan Jones, can I come to you first? I've asked each of them to summarize their views in about 2 minutes. Dan, can you give me your assessment as an advisor and a consultant on this issue?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I don't think money kills sport. I think it strengthens it, and I mean that both in its highest branches and at its grassroots. Over the last 20 years, we've seen sport develop at a phenomenal rate, but it's always been the killer content. So we've got a fragmented world, and if you can find content that is best consumed socially, live, without a break, that's the best content there is. And sport is the best of that content that has ever been devised. I don't buy this thing that money is driving the public further away from sport. I think money is a reflection of the passion and the embrace the public has for sport. I think if you're in London this summer at the Olympics, you saw the demand for tickets for that games, you recognise that the best sport is more popular than it's ever been. And I think there's a virtuous circle here as well. I think as the money comes into sport, you get better facilities, you get better training, you get better athleticism, and I think that is a virtuous circle that then feeds higher quality sport. So I think sporting excellence, pursuit of money, symbiotically linked. It's a global language as well. Very few things cut across borders like sport does. This event here today is a great demonstration of that. And that gives us global icons. Lionel Messi, LeBron James, these people are our global icons and they deserve the money they get. The only time that becomes a problem is if the money puts the sport's very foundations in danger because too much is being spent. And I think the saddest thing that you ever see is billionaire owners and millionaire players wrangling and leading to the public not seeing the sport that they love, because there is more than enough money to go around. And I'm sure there's some people sitting in this room saying, yeah, tell me something I don't know. We all know the apex is very healthy, but the rest of sport is withering and dying. That's not true. All the evidence, the data shows you that secondary sport has more money than it's ever had in the past. Yes, there's an enormous gap between that and the very top leagues, the top teams, but that's not the same as saying there's less money around in those lower reaches, because the nature of sport, the solidarity models that exist in the IOC, in FIFA and so on, that force that money to be distributed on down the sport, mean that there is more money there than there's ever been. So that's very, very healthy. That puts demands on those bodies. They need to improve their governance, they need to be transparent. But sport, more than any other industry, the media scrutiny, the public love of it, forces that change. And in terms of does money corrupt sport, for that reason, the scrutiny it brings, I don't think it necessarily does. I think you have better funded anti-corruption units, better funded anti-doping units than we have ever had in sport. And fundamentally, what sport needs to be a success is the public must believe what it is seeing. Without that, there is no value. So I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I'm always asked the same question, is this a bubble and is it about to burst? And I don't believe that it is, and I don't believe that because I'm complacent, I believe it because I'm confident. And I think there's a great, great quote, if I may just finish with it, that's in this building, from Emil Zatopek, who says, an athlete cannot run with money in his pocket, he must run with hope in his heart and dreams in his head. And that's absolutely right. Sport and money are linked, but you get the sport right first and the money will follow.
Thanks, Dan. Billy.
For the most part, I adopt much of what Dan is saying. If I have to refer, I would say that over the last 15 to 20 years, due to globalization and obviously the explosion in mass communication, what it's done, it's promoted sports to a level that everyone has access. And so as a consequence, because of the need for content, and I think that's the key to it all, that as we resort more to communication and broadcast through the media and access to sporting events, that the need for real lifetime competition and unpredictability, that sports is the best product available. And so as a consequence, it has driven up the value. I know over the last 17 years in the NBA, we've seen the value of franchises go from an average of $100 and some million to like $350 million of the value of an average franchise in the NBA. Notwithstanding the lockout that we just came out of in the last season, we're projecting that revenues are going to exceed $5 million this season, which is more than the NBA has ever earned. The reality and the problem that comes in when Dan was mentioning about the fight between millionaires and billionaires, it's simply because you have a group of owners who pay exorbitant sums of money for franchises, and then they expect a return. And the position that we've always taken is that they get their return because they own the franchises. The franchises escalate in value like owning a piece of property. And at the end of a player's career, he's there 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 years, and it's over for him. But the owners have the ability to hand these franchises down to their children, their grandchildren, etc. I think what may ultimately happen is we may get to the place that we may see something, and I think the system itself is self-regulating like everything else. The market will dictate whether or not things get too out of control, and if so, they'll correct themselves. But I think we may end up, maybe in the future, following the model that's demonstrated by the Green Bay Packers in the NFL, where it's a publicly owned franchise. And as a consequence, I think they're able to then pretty much, to a greater degree, control what is being paid to players and what the return is to the owners. You know, when you look around the NFL this past year, I think their revenue is going to hit over $10 billion. The NHL is currently in a lockout, but the reality is they made more money over the last 5 years than they had made in their prior history. Major League Baseball is doing extremely well. So obviously my reference is to professional sports in America. When we look at the grassroots level, I can't really speak to what is happening in the public schools. I can speak to the universities. And I know if you look at the two main sports, if you look at football and basketball in America at the college level in Division I sports, the numbers are off the scale. Every league is signing TV contracts, which are promising billions of dollars to the universities. And so my attitude is clearly there's enough money that goes around. I think it does help the sport. I think it helps the players. They have short careers, and my attitude is they should earn every dollar that they can earn, and they should obviously share in the revenues that they're generating.
All right, Billy, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to push you because we've only got 45 minutes, and I think we have a very clear idea of where you stand on this. A lot of people worried about the levels of pay. I'll come back to that in a moment. Wen Wang, your view from Beijing of the dilemma here between whether it encourages and is good for sport or kills sport. You're not getting translation?
Yeah.
You are getting translation or not?
The second program.
You don't have translation. Well, can I go to Javier then? If you don't get translation, you're hearing or not?
Yeah, okay.
So what are the points you want to make?
Sorry. 其实我觉得是我们更多的应该去定义这个共同的这个体育价值是什么啊，然后呢让更多的人呢去关注和参与进来，这样你的家人、你的朋友啊，包括你的同事啊，当你参与这运动中的时候，你的这个机构的公平性呢啊，包括这个权力的监督就能够得到一个诠释。谢谢。
Do you want to say any more about the arguments for and against what we're discussing, Wen Wang?
Of course, yeah. 核心就是说，就是我认为只有这个只有钱或者资本进入了体育领域，你才有可能让更多的资源进来。 让更多的人才进来。这样的话呢，体育就用一股力量去追寻这种社会的价值，它能够跟整个社会的这个公平性互动性能够平等。那这样呢，体育的商业模式也好，体育的这个产业结构也好，体育的机构治理也好，才能够拥有力量。我相信一旦拥有力量的话呢，这个体育的价值就能够被广泛的传递。谢谢。
Right, Javier, your view, please. A lot of people, again, making a point here about their concern about mega deals.
Yeah, I think we're mixing two things here. We're mixing the practice of sport and professional sports. And in my view, in what is my field, football, no? As vice chairman of FC Barcelona, one of the largest football clubs in the world, if not the largest. In practice of sports, I think any money that public entities and private entities can power into practice of sport is well invested. I think sport is the best thing we have in this planet. It helps us to be healthy, mentally, physically. It helps us to compete. It learns the children to win, to lose. So I think one of the best things that can happen to us worldwide is that the practice of sports at schools increases. So everything that we can do, governments, everything that we can do, public entities, private entities, to increase the practice of sports, pouring a lot of money into this, it's well invested. And therefore, very, very welcome to put a lot of money in that area. Different thing is the professional sports and professional football in my case. I am very happy that the Green Packers came along. We are like the Green Packers. We are owned by our fan base, by 180,000 members. We are not privately owned. We are not owned by any millionaire, by any billionaire. We are owned by our fans, and our fans elect us every 6 years. If we do bad, they kick us out. It's exactly like an election, like election for mayor or for governor. We are in favor of that model. We are not in favor of models that clubs are bought and sold, that in order to win Champions League, you have to invest 1 billion euros. I repeat, 1 billion euros in the last 10 years. We are not in favor of that. And in that sense, we do think that money is not good. We think that you have to invest in your grassroots. We have what we consider the best, the most famous youth academy worldwide. We have 9 World Cup winners, Champions Leagues in South Africa, formed in our academy, 9, including Leo Messi, the best player in the world, and that's the model we favor. That's not bought with money. That's bought with effort, with discipline, with austerity, and with long-term planning. And in that sense, we do think that cheap money, easy money, fresh money put into the sport will end killing the sport. UEFA, I think, is going to that route, is going to that direction, and that's why UEFA is implementing the fair play, the financial fair play. We're absolutely in favor of the financial fair play, and what we do think is that clubs like ours, and any club worldwide, they should invest in grassroots, they should invest in their youth academies, and on the long term, they will have the success that we have.
Hassan Al-Tawadi.
Well, to start with, I'd just like to point out that my role is different than everybody else over here. Everybody else works more or less towards the commercial aspect of sports or analyzing commercial aspects of sport. I'm only working on hosting the World Cup. So there's a slight difference in terms of roles.
But you can still have a view on this issue.
No, I do have a view, but I just wanted to point out in terms of it's my view as opposed to working within the industry. So I do apologize if it's a little bit naive to some. The way I look at it, it's not a simple question because I believe sports is the greatest content that's available right now in terms of entertainment, absolutely without a doubt. Not only is it a great content in terms of entertainment, but it's a great platform to promote values, to promote great role models, and ultimately it is worth what it's being paid for. But the question is the pursuit of money killing sports? To the extent that people look at it purely on a commercial basis, you take away the social aspect of what sports means. You take away the social responsibilities of sports, and accordingly, the sporting industry is a very unique industry, in my opinion, compared to everywhere else. It has social values, social aspects that actually affect not only just adults, but also individuals in terms of kids and young adults. So there's a responsibility towards that. If the pursuit of money was the only angle, you lose on a very, very big chunk of what makes sports so unique. So is the pursuit of money killing sports? It can. But in the end, you require sports. You do need money to be able to invest in infrastructure, invest in grassroots development, invest in a lot of talent, to be able to continue with that content, to develop that content, and to develop the platform that is required to promote that content. So it's a balancing act in reality, like everything else. I mean, I think it's not really a strange thing to say. Like any other industry, like anything else that you pursue in life, to a certain extent, moderation is very, very important and very crucial. You need the mechanisms in place. Javier just mentioned the financial fair play, where it ensures that at least clubs don't overextend themselves just in the pursuit of success or the pursuit of money, but rather invest in grassroots development, invest in their talents, and promote the positive sides of sports, while at the same time it allows people to retain a commercial model that does allow them to kind of plow back that money within the investment schemes that they need and within the talent that they need.
Thank you. Philip Blatter.
Yeah, I said before, maybe yes, maybe no. For me, sports and money is like fire and water. If you put fire and water together, you know, one extinguishes the other. But if you put fire and water the right way together, it gives you a steam machine. And I don't know if the formula is on the... I try to think about how do we make sure that we get this steam machine. Is it on? Okay, good. So bear with me, I studied engineering 25 years ago, aerospace engineering, and everything was put into equation. So I said to myself, what is the equation of having money and sports together to have success? And you will see in this formula, you have sports, power, money, times professionalism, times sustainability. Brackets close, plus passion equal success. So for those who have been to school a long time ago, like me, I had to be sure again. If you have sports and money, it's very good. But you need professionalism. That means that you need the right ethical behavior, you need the right structure in place. And if this goes to zero, or if you don't have it, even if you have a lot of sport, a lot of money, it doesn't help. The same for sustainability. Sustainability is having grassroots program, it's having long-term view on all this. And you see in these brackets, if only one of these elements tends to zero, it doesn't help. You have fire and water extinguishing themselves. Now let's take also the example, if you don't have money, what happens if you don't have money? So sports power zero is still equal to 1. So if you have professionalism, sustainability, plus passion somewhere, you still find success. Now the question is, how do you define success? What is success for you? For the FC Barcelona, is to be the best club in the world, to win the Champions League. For the football club in my village, where I have 3,000 inhabitants, success is just to maintain and to stay in the 5th Swiss league. And I believe that that helped me a little bit to think about what is needed when we talk about sports and money, because it's not just sports and money, there's many, many things around it. It's like saying, you know, explain why Barcelona is winning just after the kickoff and Messi is taking the ball. I think it's much more than this to win a game and to win the Champions League. And that's, I think, is at the end much more ingredients are needed to explain, you know, if sports kills success or if money kills success or if money really triggers success.
Thank you, Philip. We have literally 15 minutes to run. So there's a lot of issues here I want to put on the table for you to chew over. I don't know who are sending these because there are no names here, but fairness comes in on several occasions. If we agree with the proposition that the pursuit of money is helping sports, as Mr. Jones and Mr. Hunter contend, then why not just give up on developing countries and focus on the regions of the world where the most profit can be made? And there's another one here about fairness, about whether it's ethical to give football players large sums of money, while in other parts of the world, remote parts, children and people are suffering from starvation. Billy and Dan Jones. Dan.
Happy to pick up either and both of those points. I think the whole point about something like the Olympic Games or the Champions League or the FIFA World Cup generating huge amounts of money is that that money is then cascaded into the smaller economic markets in the developing countries.
You've got data on that, have you?
Well, it's just
very clear, is it?
Yes, I've got lots of data on it, but I don't really want to blitz people with data because I don't think they'll be very entertaining. But yes, I mean, but the data's there and it's very publicly visible and transparent, the amounts of money that is distributed to those smaller nations. If those events were just run by and for the big nations in the big nations, then that wouldn't happen. So I think it's just self-evident that that redistribution takes place. In terms of the morality or otherwise of footballers' wages, again, that's a question I've been asked for the last 15 years. And frankly, if the public don't want footballers to be paid a lot of money, don't go and watch football, don't buy football shirts, don't buy TV subscriptions, don't have anything to do with football. If you really feel that strongly that it's that immoral, don't do that. Don't do that with your money. Give that money to charity. In reality, I think what most people do is people give some of their money to football and some of the money to other causes they feel strongly about. And the reason there's all the money there is there in football is because we put it there. We, the general public. No money magically appears from anywhere else other than football fans giving it to football.
Billy Hunter.
I agree that sports is a business. And I think that when we look at the model, there are two different models, because I wanted to get back to what was said to my right about FC Barcelona, et cetera. The reality is the system is totally different in America. We don't have clubs. We have the public school system and university, which are feeders to professional sports. Now, as it relates to the money being generated by professional sports, I think that we have to continue to rely upon foreign aid, which various countries give to developing countries around the world. And we have the UN and others to kind of pay homage to in that respect. I don't think it's going to happen where we get to a situation where an NFL or an NBA owner or league is going to end up giving them money away as part of foreign aid. It's just not, it's not realistic. It's nice to think in those terms, but the reality is the money is driven and earned by a given industry and business. The athletes are the laborers, and they're paid because of the reasons that Dan has delineated. And unless there's some overhaul in the system, and we go to some entirely new system, it's just not a reality.
But it's worth pointing out the NBA does do programs in, for example, India, grassroots programs in India.
Yeah, but those programs are for purposes of generating and finding talent. They're not. I thought that the question went to more of some kind of social thing where you've got people starving in third world countries, or countries need to be developed, and then why not take that money that's being generated and paid to athletes and given to them? The reality is, athletes receive a portion of the money that they're generating. In our case, in the NBA, we have a cap so that the players don't get a disproportionate share of the money. They get 50% of what is being generated, and rightfully so, because they are the widgets in the product, in the industry. Without them, there is nothing.
Okay, pay comes up. Let me throw this at several of you. Do you think salaries should be restrained to a maximum level? Javier?
Yes.
Do you restrain your salaries and your player salaries?
No.
So you believe in it, but you don't restrain them?
Well, because the market, we have to play in the market we have. We don't have the rules that the NBA has. And therefore, there is no salary cap on European football. There is no such thing as 50-50 rule as in the NBA. And it's a free market so far in European football, and we have to play by the market. In defense of the stars and the players, though, I have to say that they're also very inspirational. If at the end of the day, the final outcome is that more and more children, and more adults, by the way, not only children, adults, male and a lot of females, our objective is that they play sports. The stars are inspirational. A lot of these people worldwide, and we're talking about billions, play sports because they see their stars playing sports. And that is a value that we have to keep very strongly. Also, you have to bear in mind that you were in a world of 7-8 billion people. Only in my case, in football, this is run by 300-400 football players only, in a world of 7 million that watch football. So these players, they do deserve to get a lot of money. We're not against players getting what they deserve. Don't get me wrong, that's not what we were saying. They have to get what they deserve. The issue is that that has to be restricted to limitations that allow the clubs to be healthy financially. And what has happened, and it's still happening in European football, is that salaries go well beyond the 50% that the NBA has. In some clubs, they go up to 80-90%. And that's unsustainable. That's not a sustainable model for the future, and that's what I think UEFA is implementing now with the fair play.
Wen Wang, your view on these issues?
这样，其实，在很多的国家，尤其是发展中国家，比如说多哈，我认为首先应该是政府啊，去多进行场馆的建设，来进行多的投入，但同时呢，也要鼓励体育的产业化的过程，就是政府的投入不是单纯做慈善，它是一个助力，然后你培养好的机构来进行运营，因为一旦体育不产业化，它就没有一个市场的竞争力，它就不可能跟别的行业一样，它去更好的满足参与者的服务这是第一方面。第二，刚刚也讲到 NBA 跟这个足球的一些事情，其实我认为就是一个好的这个项目一定要考虑到一些草根的利益不仅仅他们是观赛者，他们更多应该参与进去草根的利益来讲呢，你让他多去参与一些赛事同时把商业模型设计好。只要你有好的商业模式，你把你的商业模式把政府的利益、把这个俱乐部的利益和个人的投入融合在一起，包括这种赛事的设计当中呢，你把它多娱乐化，包括今天这种互动化、这种网络化的处理的时候呢，那我相信体育的价值就能跟得上这个时代的变化，也能够可以持续发展。OK， 谢谢。
Because one of the issues that comes through on several of the points that are being made from the floor is about the fact that sport is about sport. It shouldn't just be about money. Let me quote you. Sport is about determination, hard work and loyalty. However, the money which has been pumped into sport has led to the formation of superstar teams. Then another, does investing in a sport club have an emotional side, not just simply about business? How do you resolve this very clear need to have a business model with what some people out there, reflecting those around the world, feel is simply too much cash sloshing around and therefore corrupting the business?
Well, it's ironic that whenever we have these kinds of meetings and we discuss, it always turns out that the pariahs in the room are the athletes. The perception is always that the athletes are getting too much. And that's not the situation.
But you have a lot of sports people here who are, and some of them are clearly concerned about this.
Oh, no, we all have that concern, but as I indicated earlier, I think it's going to be self-regulating. Ultimately, we'll get to the place where if the fans decide that they're paying too much and they decide to stay away from the game, then there'll be an adjustment. We made an adjustment last year when we went through a lockout. The players were getting 57%, and the owners were saying they couldn't survive, and so we agreed to roll it back to 50%. But within that context, the players are entitled to earn whatever they can earn within the 50% that we get.
Do you see a ceiling emerging at all at any point, Philippe Blatter?
Well, I think we should make a differentiation. We talk a lot about the top leagues like football, like NBA, NFL. But I believe, I'm sure if you would do a statistic and look at how many of the participants at the Olympic Games in London, what their monthly income is, I think it would be a fraction, a tenth of what some of the stars at FC Barcelona are doing. And we sometimes focus our speech, our discussion on this really 5% of the sports world. And I believe that, and we work with smaller federation, with sports people, stars who won gold medals, who are just barely able to close the month. And that's why also programs like, I read an interesting article on what UK Sports has done to help many of the sports people, to give them, I think it was £30,000 per year to help to really train in a professional way, to give them the structure to work, to find commercial agreements to help them. That's actually the majority of the athletes. And I believe that many of the athletes here, which are not football players or are not playing in these big leagues, would recognize themselves. And I believe that here it is quite key to have these commercial partners like UK Sports have found to support, to have money from the governments to help fund those athletes so they find the right place to train, to bring the results, and to be these inspirational leaders, these inspirational sports people that we're all talking about this morning.
Who would like to come in quickly? We have literally 5 minutes using a microphone rather than anything digital. Let me say there are, Billy, some who say, doesn't the pursuit of money also give life to sport due to investments that later expect revenue. And money gives, another one, money gives incentives. Incentives fuel many players in their hope of success and perform their best when motivated. So there's a question here. Wouldn't it be safe to say the pursuit of money is fueling sport? Who else would like to come in? Please, over there. Anyone else? Yes, over there too. Thank you.
Nowadays,
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Andrew McLean, go to school in Egypt, Canadian. Nowadays you hear children saying, oh, I want to be a football player and I'm going to make millions and I'm going to retire and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that's what we should be promoting, or should we go back to the roots of what sports really was? That was, I want to be a football player because that's what I love, not because of the financial benefits you're going to get from it.
And what's your view about the question? Is the pursuit of money killing sport, or can money buy success?
Of course it aids sports, but I don't think it should be the center of sports.
But is it creating success or killing sport? You've had 40 minutes to think about that.
How do you determine success? And I think that's part of the problem when we judge how successful people are. We look at how well they're doing economically. And so why shouldn't a player or someone who's trained half of their life to become a professional athlete be able to reap the benefits of his efforts?
I would go along with that, and I don't want this debate to be just about football. The greatest experience we've had in Britain in my lifetime, and probably will be the greatest experience for the rest of my lifetime, was the Olympics and the Paralympics this summer. And that was fueled by a large amount of money. To get the games on, for the UK sport to make the investment it did, for our team to be as successful as it was fueled by money. But the people who won those medals did not win them for money. Yes, they're now trying to capitalise on that success, but they went into their sport because they loved their sport and they were successful because they worked very hard at it. And now they're getting some rewards for it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Dan, I need to ask you, Deloitte was had a big presence in the British Olympics. Did it benefit you?
Yeah, I mean, the Olympics was, as I said, I think it was the greatest thing.
No, but did it benefit Deloitte?
But for Deloitte, yeah, we put 750,000 man-hours into what we did. And we are incredibly proud. We staked our colours to that mast very early when all you could hear was negativity about the Olympics. And it was a bit of a intake of breath moment when we got to the middle of July and there was the security issue there was, and then it got started and we thought, yes, this is every bit as good as we thought it was going to be.
But let me ask you, do you think it benefited Deloitte or did it benefit sport?
Both.
Nick, can I just interrupt over here? I mean, when you mentioned, for example, did it benefit Deloitte? It might have benefited Deloitte, but also benefited the sport. Mm-hmm. We have to look at sport as being an industry. I mean, it is now moving towards more of a professional industry. Over the last 30 years, I think that's when sports and significant amount of money started pouring into sports, as opposed to when it first started, from humble beginnings of a lot of athletes, a lot of amateurs coming in with realistically just a love of the sport, love of the game. It has become now an industry with great content, an industry that it should be paid so just to be able to survive. As simple as that. There's nothing wrong with that. My only, from my perspective is, it's not just enough to self-regulate. There should be mechanisms put in place. Javier again mentioned the financial fair play. It is a holistic approach. You have to have a holistic approach to ensure that the industry can survive and can continue providing great content, while at the same time, it can start funding itself, and I'll just be quiet there.
Thank you. One more question here, please.
Okay, good evening. I'm Andrew Matheson. I just want to say first that...
Where are you from, please?
Well, our delegation's from Germany. I just want to say first that, for example, in more economically developed countries, sport has been fueled by money, and this is really good, but shouldn't the money be focused now on less economically developed countries, such as, for example, the African Nations Cup has been fueled, but shouldn't be more equally distributed, these finances?
Javier.
Well, again, I think it's very difficult to ask a football club like us or a star player from the NBA to solve the world problems. Mm-hmm. I think that's unrealistic, frankly. I think the sports, the leagues continue, the fans watch the sport, the fans are inspired by the stars, and therefore those stars need to get paid. What said that, we are, in our club at least, what we know, we're going through a direction of helping a lot. We have a foundation. 1% of all of our revenues is sent to the foundation. We think we are one of the only clubs that does that. And we have forced the players from 3 years ago to also contribute 1% of their salary to the foundation. All of those most of that goes to UNICEF. We have a long-standing relationship with UNICEF, also with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we are more and more committed. Overall, we will put about 10 million euros this year on our foundation, becoming one of the largest foundations in Spain, and all of that money is going to the disabled people worldwide, mostly in Africa, by the way.
Javier, I have to ask you, you say you had to force the players to spend 1%. Did that mean you tried to ask them to volunteer to give up 1%?
No, we suggested the players that if they wanted to play with us, they had to sign this 1% in their contract, and they all agree.
All right. Okay, I'm really under time pressure. Wen Wang would like to say something, but let me just get one more question to get a sense of what you're all thinking out there. Over there, please. And it's great to have a lady.
Thank you very much. I'm a South University, People's Republic of China. I have a question related to technology barrier. I think you guys know that...
Is it about money?
Yeah, money. Wealthy countries and developed countries, they can invest heavily on technology so that their athletes can perform better than the athletes from developing countries or some African countries. Do you think that actually creates inequality in sports, and it is in sharp contrast to the sportsmanship?
Thank you. Anyone want to jump in quickly? Wen Wang, would you like to come in because someone from your country, from PRC?
Sorry, but I will sorry，我想跟这个刚刚那个说运动员那个人呢分享一个我对于成功的定义。其实因为我曾经是一名运动员，我觉得一个运动员要想成功的话，首先他要把他对于项目的价值做一个分享和共享，这是第一点。第二个，他要把他这个项目推广到大众当中去，让他们这些大众有权利去享受这个运动，包括他的家人、他的朋友、他的同事。那我想这样的话呢，这个运动员就能够真正的成功。谢谢。
Good. Well, thank you very much indeed. I've got to stop it there. We're already 3 minutes over, and you can see what time the dinner is due to start tonight. So I apologize if I can see a lot of hands going up as well, so I apologize, but we got a lot into 45 minutes. Can I thank you all very much indeed? And I think it is a rich area which needs to be explored at the next Doha Goals. So thank you very much indeed, and I'll invite the next panel to come and join me.